Moving things around is how you get more things done. Travis Kelce has changed his contract, converted. We're going to talk to Matt Derrick about what it means, how it works, and what's going to happen next today, all here on Locked On Chiefs.
From the land of the free and the home of the Chiefs, this is the Locked On Chiefs podcast.
Welcome back, everybody. We're brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs Today. It helps you find the candidates that you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. Lot to go over here because it just feels like, oh, maybe there's something boiling underneath the surface. We're going to talk about what that could be, what it could mean, and what it might not be today. I'm Ryan Tracy, founder of Rogue Analytics, NFL 33, RGR Football, the family crest of Tracy. I don't know, whatever else. This is Matt Derrick from ChiefsDigest.com, editor at large. Matt, we've talked about a lot of scenarios in the last couple of days. This is coming off of a ball game against the Bills that I still feel was well fought. Yes, there were mistakes made. There's a lot of rookie play. But in the end, there are a couple of things you could upgrade on this roster. Step one would be creating cap space. That's what the Chiefs did today. How did this come down? And was it like a last-minute thing, or was this in the works for a while?
No, I mean, it's probably one of those things that was percolating as far as just in case need to break glass kind of moment. Now, I mean, Occam's razor here is that the simplest explanation is the most logical. And the simplest explanation is that the Chiefs went into Tuesday morning with a little more than $400,000 in salary cap space, which meant that if they even wanted to bump somebody up from the practice squad to take a spot on the 53 because of an injury, they barely had enough money to do it. This just frees up money. I mean, this frees up some spots. So, I mean, obviously they have some flexibility as far as making any moves that they have to when it comes to injuries. There's going to be guys that get hurt that probably need to go on IR. You need to juggle things. Remember, I mean, even dragging people up from the practice squad on game day for those elevations cost money. And when you're down to $400,000 in cap space, I mean, even a game check is going to cut into that. So the Kelsey move frees them up so that there's no problem there. I mean, they've got the flexibility that if they need to add somebody because of an injury or anything of that nature, that they have some room to wiggle. Now, the natural question is, does this signal something else is coming? Not necessarily. I mean, this just gives the Chiefs a little bit of breathing room. Is it enough room to add on a big contract? No. I mean, there's something else. There's another shoe that's going to need to drop to get that done. So I'm not convinced that this is the signal of anything major coming, but at least lets Brett Veach keep his options open. And the other option that they have to push the button to get something done would be if they have to restructure Mahomes' contract and to move some money around there to free anything up. That would be the more of an indication that something's in the works.
Yeah, especially for a big-time player. There's a couple of things that you don't need that much money for. We'll get to those as some options down the line. But the number one option is this is just to get cash on hand. This is, refill the piggy bank. So you do have to do what could be machinations here going forward for game day rosters, whether that's a run team that comes in where you want Sheldon Day up. I'm sorry, Danny Shelton up, wrong Sheldon. Whether it's you're gonna toy with DeCaprio Boodle came up last week, who your next DB has to come up in case there's another injury, all those kind of things. That's probably the most straightforward and logical. When we look at years past, it's been what 5-ish, 6-ish in terms of what they like to keep as a hover point. This is 3.4 coming out of Kelsey's contract, right? That gives it 3.4 in cap space. It's a little bit more than that in terms of the fee as well, right?
Yeah, a little bit. So, I think it shakes out to me maybe like 3.8 that they'll have under the cap going forward, which, like you said, I mean, it's enough to be able to have some minor acquisitions if you need to, but mostly just to be able to handle the churn on the practice squad and any injuries that you're going to have down the road.
So the Patrick piece, like you said, could be the next big thing to fall. Now, they've already paid out his bonus for this season, correct?
That is a little bit more complicated because what Mahomes has is a roster bonus, and roster bonuses can be paid in a lot of different ways. They can be paid in a lump.
From the land of the
Yeah, sometimes that happens. Sorry, I didn't interrupt you there.
They can be paid week. They can roster bonuses can be paid a lot of different ways. They can be paid week to week. They can be paid in a lump sum. They can be paid at the end of the season. And having looked at what we know publicly about Mahomes' contract, it doesn't say anything about his contract and when they're paid, which to me would typically mean that those are probably week to week roster bonuses. So if that's the case, then anything going forward is still movable. I mean, there's still a substantial chunk that if they needed to free up some space for a major acquisition, that's still doable.
Okay. So long story short, this is a move for space. It's not enough to make a major acquisition of somebody, say, Orlando Brown Jr., or anybody who's thinking along those lines, right? We have to see, like you said earlier, another shoe drop. Is it only Mahomes? Is there anything to be done, say, with Chris Jones or anybody else that you might want to go to that well?
There's not a lot out there left to do. I mean, and the Jones, hey, if I'm Chris Jones and his representation and they want to restructure the contract, I'm Chris Jones, I'm going to say, no, we need to talk a little bit more about the future.
Yep.
And we need more money. I mean, because his deal doesn't really have that anything in it. And you know, it would be kicking some money down the curb too. So it's probably nothing that either side's really interested in doing right now.
That's kind of where I was at too. Like the word would be included would be extension if that's what you're doing, right? It's not just a restructure. That makes it more complicated. So that's the reality of it, folks. Now let's have some fun. When we get back, we're going to go through what could be just the inklings or the road, the path that we took a little toe down, because there are some interesting options. We're going to talk about that after this from our friends here at LinkedIn. As you gear up for fall, you need to find the right people to help your team and your small business fire on all the cylinders. LinkedIn Jobs is here to make it easier for you to find the people that you want to talk to faster and for free. I'm always looking for good content creators, graphic artists, et cetera, et cetera. It makes it simple to just create a job in minutes on LinkedIn Jobs and reach your network and beyond to the world's largest professional network of over 810 million people. You add your job, and the purple hashtag hiring frame comes in on your LinkedIn profile, and it spreads the word to your network as well as others that you're trying to find the right people to hire. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the candidates that you want to talk to faster. And did you know that every week 40 million job seekers visit LinkedIn? Post your job for free on linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions do apply. Okay, we're here on a Tuesday. We're coming off of a loss. We're going to have a little bit of fun, daydream a little bit, because one thing that I've learned about this franchise, about Brett Veach and his staff in particular, is they're never done looking. They're always going to be looking at options. And there happens to be a few things going on around the league that certain franchises have been set ablaze, et cetera, et cetera. People are worried about jobs. So first and foremost, if this is just an inkling and they do something with Chris or they get some money from Patrick, if you were going to spend some high dollars, Matt, what would be an option that you think can actually improve the product on the field for the Chiefs right now?
Yeah, I mean, well, one, we obviously looking at the trade market and seeing if there's anybody that you could acquire there. And obviously the kind of illusion you're making there is that there's a franchise that may or may not be located in the Carolinas that might be in a little bit of, not necessarily a fire sale, but getting rid of some veterans. The complication there for the Chiefs in the trade market is a couple of fold. You know, one is that the Chiefs are trying at least to commit to building through the draft. So giving up some draft resources, especially after they've just acquired some, would be a hard swallow. On top of that, there's not a lot of interest in this organization right now with moving any early round capital from 23 with the draft in Kansas City and giving up either a first or a second. So if you're up to it to get the team that wants, a high round draft pick, they're probably going to have to ask them to take something in 24 beyond. And that's not, long-term shopping is not usually what some teams are looking for. And do Chiefs fans want to give up a first round pick for a running back? I would probably say that's not. Well, yeah. And now all of a sudden somebody wants to give up a first round pick for a running back. Might take more than that. But probably the name that's going to be the most interest is Brian Burns. And the problem there twofold is that, again, I mean, I think that the price is just going to be prohibitive because I think that Carolina sees him as a piece that the next coach can build around, somebody that they have a little bit of control over. So If you want that, I think it's not only going to cost you draft picks, but obviously you need the extension too. So it's not just a one or the other, it's both. And I think Carolina is going to ask through the roof for somebody like that. Question is, are there some other targets out there? Maybe. Free agency is probably where there's more interest and there's a lot more speculation because there's some names out there. And obviously, anytime that the Chiefs are involved, Odell Beckham Jr.'s name is going to get mentioned about because that seems like it would be a great fit with him and Mahomes in Kansas City. I have some concerns because the next wide receiver that I see come into an Andy Reid offense midseason and succeed will be the first. It's hard. And I mean, and hey, if they just said, oh, hey, OBJ, just go out and just do nothing but run 9 routes all day, maybe that'd be okay. But again, and the price necessarily shouldn't be a big deal. I mean, you would think that would be something to get done because OBJ seemingly is interested in a 1-year rental and see what happens so that he can go in the next offseason fully healthy and explore. And you're not talking about signing OBJ to 4 years and a big deal right now. It's probably something short term, and he wants to play for a winner. So it makes it a little bit easier. But again, hey, is the little money that the Chiefs have under the cap, is it enough? Is there some interest there? We'll see. But I'm assuming that there will continue to be speculation, and we'll see if it pans out to anything. As of now, I mean, it hasn't. I mean, there's not a lot of smoke between the Chiefs and OBJ, but there's just rumblings of people speculating that, hey, that'd be a cool fit.
Right. Yeah. Whether it's media personalities or whatever, there seems to be more smoke billowing around. I want to back up though, because it is Burns that I think in terms of the viability is right now the thing that I'm primarily interested because a couple of reasons. And hear me out. Let me know where you think this is flawed logic. If I'm Brett Veach, if I want to go spend what I have to spend to get a talent that can help me, I'd rather do it for a younger guy, even if I have a contract coming. If I'm Fitterer, I really don't care what I have to give up to keep my job. If that happens to be it and I have to start over at the edge rusher position, I'm going to have to live with that because the alternative is you continue to sink and you get fired as well. The question becomes for me is whether ownership is going to override that or not. And from what I understand, ownership is not very overbearing in Carolina or they wouldn't be in this position. Am I wrong on any of these things?
I don't think you're wrong at all. I mean, I think it's just, a question of can the expectations in Carolina meet with the reality in a Kansas City or anywhere else? I mean, it sounds like, hey, if Carolina is going to move Burns, they kind of want heaven and earth. I mean, they want a big package in return. And I question, is that the right move? I mean, there's no doubt the Chiefs are prepared next offseason to spend in the free agent or the draft market, whatever it may be, for a defensive end. I mean, that was the plan all along. Since they didn't do it last year, they extended Frank Clark. They made the move with Karlaftis. But the plan all along was that, hey, you're going to need another piece of the defensive line in the 23 offseason. There's no reason you can't make that move right now. I mean, if you see something available, it's just as Burns the guy. Because you're not only talking about giving up and making this guy a top-end paid pass rusher, but you're also talking about giving up the draft picks for it. And it's starting to feel a lot like the Frank Clark deal, even though Frank Clark was a little bit older at that point. But is Brian Burns, one of the top 5 pass rushers in the league? I don't know if I can make that case. And I think you'd have to pay him like that after you acquire him. And you already did that once with Frank Clark. I mean, the Chiefs are going to have to go into the market. I don't know if there's maybe not better solutions in the free agent market or even in the draft market in the offseason. Because anytime, if you're making a move now for a guy like that, you're not making the move for Burns for 22. You're making a move like that for 23 and 24.
And that does preclude you from what you can do in that next piece. I just look at his cap number right now. Once a trade were accomplished would be 2.3. So there's enough room there. It just, if you're really desperate or you think that he is the talent that maybe puts you over the top, that maybe outshines anything you're going to get in this next draft, it could be a couple of reasons why you at least venture down that road. That's not the only road, though, and I have a couple of even crazier ideas here, folks, that Matt's going to shoot down here relatively quickly after we tell you about our new pals. When you need to get into the action, BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to check all your betting information for all your betting needs. Find all your favorite sports and events at the #1 source for all the odds, lines, games, and everything you need to get your money on the line in a smart way that gets you ready for whatever season you're looking for, whether it's this football season, could be baseball, NFL, NHL, NBA, even the golf and the combat sports are there at BetOnline. It continues to be the top resource for all of your sports wagering information, your live in-game betting, podcasts, scores, everything that you need to get covered. Head over there to BetOnline. It's easy to get to their website from any device, including your phone. It's BetOnline, where the game starts. Okay, we covered the two big ones. A young player on the defensive side and an over-the-top player on the offensive side. One coming off of a significant injury, by the way, folks. So let's do the old thing. This league is about relationships. And let's take a completely different tack here. If you know a couple of people around the league that either need to rebuild or need to jettison some decisions, the two guys that you want to call are in Indianapolis and Chicago, as far as I'm concerned, if you're Brett Veach. It gets very interesting to me because I think talent that could be available from Chicago in particular has a couple of caveats. Robert Quinn's been rumored ever since the offseason to be on the block. If you were to acquire him, you're putting yourself into another aged veteran. You don't have the cap now, even after this move with Travis. Jenkins, on the other hand, is very different. And given the tackle situation in Kansas City, a lot of consternation around this position group and whether Lucas Niang will even get back into the mix this season. Is that something that if you're trying to go like, I need a small upgrade, but I need to go under the budget, is that something that Brett Veach should be calling Ryan Poles on right now to try to explore?
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he was. I would be surprised if he wasn't making those calls. It's just, to me, it's those deals are kind of tricky, especially when you have a move like that and you have Ryan Poles who's just going to Chicago, because you're probably not going to get a very good deal. You're not necessarily going to get a friendly deal, especially in Chicago, because I think there'd be a lot of pressure on Ryan Poles that if he does a deal with Kansas City, that it better not look like he's giving away something to some old friends at a discount. So it's going to Chiefs are probably going to have to meet the market price or better it in that case. And I think that for, some of those guys, hey, there's going to be a market. The tougher part to me is, in Indianapolis, I mean, they still think they're in it. I mean, especially in the South, and and Ballard is currently still building that team for the long term. So, whomever their quarterback is in 23, I'm assuming it will not be Matt Ryan. We'll figure out what veteran it's going to be next year. But we're on a path right now where I assume that Patrick Mahomes will be the quarterback in Indianapolis in 2038. But I kid. Patrick's not going anywhere. People,
everybody
don't
take
worry.
a step down.
Don't
It's
worry.
okay.
I'm joking. Okay. But yeah, I mean, but I still, once again, I even go back to the free agent market that, the Chiefs are needing a quick fix or anything. There's other familiar names out there. I mean, Eric Fisher's out there. If you thought that you needed an upgrade and you needed somebody at tackle, Fisher's never played right, but he could. So, that to me might be of interest. There's still some veterans that are still landing some deals around the league. So we will see. But yeah, I think when it comes to the familiar faces, those deals might be tough to get done.
I kind of feel like that too. I wasn't even going to bring it up, but since you did, it leads to another scenario. If you were to get to that point and Fish is happy coming back, which is the part that I doubt, but that's okay, folks. Would it become a situation where, listen, Orlando, you're beat up. We can't have you getting run around on the left anymore. You got to go play right. We'll put old Fish back on the spot where he was. Is that a scenario that they could survive and still have a cohesive offensive unit?
I think that'd be tough, to ask a player to do something that he said he doesn't want to do, and then you're asking him to go do it. I mean, Orlando's a team guy, might try it, but it doesn't mean his heart wouldn't be in it and to be in it. And I wouldn't necessarily blame him. And those can always have, some ripple effects too. So I don't think that that's in the cards, barring an injury, which, hey, things like that happen. It can happen in a heartbeat. So I'm not going to ever rule anything out. But that, I think, is a little bit further relief.
Okay. So now that we're out on the serious fringe, if it was up to you and Veach was like, Matt, listen, you know this team in and out. I don't know what to do. What do we do? Matt, what are you telling him to go accomplish before the trade deadline? Or is there anything? Or do you just have to ride it out with the guys that you have and try to correct the ship, overcome a couple of flaws here?
I mean, that's what I think is tricky because, like I said, I personally don't think that ever adding a skill position to an Andy Reid offense midseason makes sense. It just never seems to work. I mean, even when it's been players who have some familiarity with his offense, things change. And, it's just not the same. So until it happens, I just never have any faith. Odell Beckham Jr. is definitely a more rare talent. That maybe that's the difference. But at the same time, I wouldn't expect him to come in here and, and be like a 1,600-yard receiver. I mean, he would be something less than that. So what he would be, I don't know. But to me, that would be the tough thing, is that I'm saying I don't know if there's a whole lot that you can do to improve the offense. If the only thing, what can you do to improve the offense? Maybe it's pass protection. But what's the solution out there? Is there an upgrade that's actually available at a reasonable cost? I don't know about that. And then you have to deal with the ripple effects, because if you go out to acquire somebody to come in and take over somebody's job, that doesn't always go well in locker rooms. I mean, even if it's a passive effect, it doesn't have to be something that just, annoys everybody and makes everybody angry. It can just be one of those moves that makes everybody question what's going on and maybe makes them a little bit leery about being around the building and the environment in the organization. And the Chiefs have not typically done that. They haven't typically gone out to find somebody to come in and take somebody's job. It's usually been bringing somebody in for depth. And then if they take over because of injury, that's another thing. So I can't see Andy Reid going out and getting anybody who's going to come in with the tension of taking anybody's job on the offensive line. I think you're there, what you've got. Defensively, maybe different. But again, I don't know. I mean, the only position I can see a player the Chiefs going out and getting to upgrade anything would definitely be defensive line and probably on the edge. Because right now, if you're the Chiefs, you want your young linebackers and defensive backs playing as much as they can. There is no reason to bring in a veteran to play in front of them to sacrifice the future for now, because I don't think you would get enough of an upgrade to do that. So you're probably really only looking at a couple of spots where I think you should be even thinking about upgrades. And again, edge, what's the price? I mean, I don't know outside of Burns. We hear things, maybe Jerry Hughes is on the market. That might be an option because that's an affordable contract too. Don't know how much it would cost and what the Cowboys are looking for, but that's probably a more realistic acquisition that you're thinking about from a Chiefs standpoint, because it's low cost draft pick, low cost financial wise, rather than the big thing. I mean, Burns to me would be shooting for the moon. And that usually doesn't get done at the NFL draft deadline.
Yeah, that's kind of my thought as well. It's nice to dream. I like thinking about how you can plug him in, but let's be honest too. When it comes to Burns, he's not a Spags fit. Yes, I like his skill set. Yes, that's what I would do. That's not what Steve Spagnuolo would do. That's not the kind of player he's looking for. So,
and that's a huge factor.
It is.
It's a huge factor.
So at the end of the day, folks, yes, something could happen. We don't know what it is. There's a couple of options, but all of them have some obstacles. So let's see if any other contractual negotiations, changes, ripples happen, and then we'll have a better indication. So that is our 8-ball Wednesday show, trying to see the future. Matt, thanks for keeping us straight, not letting me get too carried away with crazy scenarios.
Hey, I'm here for any crazy scenario you got. You always know that.
I'll keep dreaming some up. And that's what we'll do. Folks, we will have more information about those 49ers. You might hear a familiar voice tomorrow. It's going to be interesting. Then we'll do our preview show as well as our predictions. Hey, time to turn the page. Bills are over. Niners are next. Let's go get them. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow.